So what we're going to see. The demo that I'm going to share with you has basically 3 parts. In the first part, we're going to show how we build a very simple Hello World, Ruby Hello World app on cloudfoundry.com on the public service. And we're going to scale it up and down. So we'll see that there is no need to wire middleware. Then we're going to see a more complex app using Java and Spring and also a database. So we're basically going to see an online bookstore where we first develop it on Cloud Foundry, and then scale it on cloudfoundry.com without changing your app. And last, we're going to have a small fun with a Node.js chat application where we'll start by experiment locally on my microcloud and then publish to cloudfoundry.com, and you guys can actually participate in the chat because it's all a public URL. So let's get going. First thing I'll do is I'll share my desktop. So this is cloudfoundry.com, the main website for Cloud Foundry. And the first thing you need to do, if you haven't done it already, is go and sign up. It's currently beta, so signing up is for free. You put your email here. In this case, we're going to use that email address during the demo. And obviously, I already signed up. You accept the term of service, click register, request an invite. It usually takes between 24 to 48 hours until we approve your request. And then you get an email with your credentials. Once you got the email, the first thing you'll do is install the command line tool, the Ruby client. Very simple, just clicking gem install VMC. All of that, by the way, is described in many details in our blog and our support site, and you'll see the links at the end. But basically, you install your VMC client, and you are set. Next, you need to target your cloud. So VMC target, a very important command. We will see that a few times during the demo. That basically tells the VMC client to which cloud to point to. So it can point to cloudfoundry.com or microcloud or any Cloud Foundry-based solution that is out there. So in our case, we'll target cloudfoundry.com, the public service. So we're doing the API endpoint. Now we are targeted there, and probably the first thing you want to do is change your password because you get a temporary password in your email. And I'm fine with my password, so I will not do that. I would log in. And I'll use the email we are using during the demo. And we're in, and if I'm doing the VMC info command, you can see that I'm targeted to cloudfoundry.com, api.cloudfoundry.com, and I have my standard capacity on the beta service with 2 gigs of memory, ability to deploy 16 services total, and 120 apps. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to push a very simple Ruby app. So this is nothing more than a nice piece of Ruby code on Sinatra that prints my host and port. Very simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the VMC push command. Again, a very important command that basically, that's the practice behind the vision of developers just push your apps. That's why we call it push. I want to deploy from the current directory. The answer is yes. I'll call it my foo. This is the public URL that this app is going to be hosted on. It detects that this is a Sinatra application, a Ruby Sinatra. Remember that line because in the third part of the demo, we are going to deploy a Node application, and we'll see that this detects that this is a Node application. So that's correct. Memory reservation is fine. At this point, we will not bind any services. In the second part of the demo, we are going to bind services using STS, the database services. And in the third part, we are going to bind services from the VMC command line. So at this point, we're just saying no. And staging, so the application is being staged by the PaaS engine and started. So now if we go to a browser and do my foo, hello from the cloud. So very simple. I I just took a Ruby code and I pushed it to the PaaS environment. I didn't set up app server, web server, load balancer, anything. Just push. Okay, so that's simple, nice, great. Let's scale it. Let's say that instead of one instance, I want to add 10 more instances to the application. So all I need to do is move my event controls here. VMC instances. The name of my app, and let's say +10. So what happens now in the background is basically the Cloud Foundry engine is launching 10 more instances of this simple foo app, so I have a total of 11. And it's not only launching them, it's also load balancing between them. So if I'll go back to my browser here, and I'll click refresh, you see that the port and IP are changing. So we actually scaled without wiring any middleware. We didn't configure the load balancer. We didn't do anything with routing. We didn't, basically the Cloud Foundry engine did all that for us, including updating the DNS and telling that there is new port and IP now running. And the same thing I can obviously do by scaling down. And also note how this is a very simple app, but even for this simple app, see how quickly it does. In our launch demo, we actually scaled, I believe, to 200 instances in few minutes, in few seconds. Sorry. So it's really fast, and it's designed to be scalable and designed to be scalable fast without you as a user, as a developer, or as an operator needs to wire any middleware components. So that's great, very simple example. Let's move on. Let's try a more interesting app. So we'll switch now to STS, which is the Spring Source developer tool suite based on Eclipse. And if you're a Spring developer, you'll probably know this tool better than I do. And what we have here is a books app, or basically online booking store that was built using Spring Roo. So we had a bunch of fields here and an MVC app that should be very familiar for any Spring developer, including web app libraries, Maven dependencies, and Java resources. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to deploy it locally on my microcloud. So for that, I first need to have a microcloud. So again, all of that is being explained very clearly in our blog posts. But if I go here to cloudfoundry.com and I basically click download my microcloud, that's after you have your credentials, you log in with the same credentials as you have for cloudfoundry.com, and then I already download my microcloud, so you first will need to download the version and generate the token. The token is the one thing that allows you to connect to the microcloud in the VM, and that's what we will use in our URLs when we'll show the app. So in this case, my token is called mylocaldev.cloudfoundry.me. So basically, any application that I will deploy on my microcloud will look like myapp.mylocaldev.cloudfoundry.me. And obviously, you can use whatever name you want here as long as it's available. So the next step is to run VMware Fusion in my case, because it's a Mac, and install the microcloud. This is a pretty simple step. You can follow the simple instructions. You need to enter your token, set up some users, configure the DNS, which is done mostly automatically, and you're done. You're getting to this point. So at this point, you have your microcloud ready. As you can see here, I have under admin, that's the main user that I'm using, and my identity is the token that I've used, mylocaldev.cloudfoundry.me. And just to make sure we are all okay in terms of services, I'm clicking 7 here, and you can see that I have a MySQL service running, which is the one we're going to use in this demo, and I have a Redis node and gateway running, which is the service we're going to use in the third part of the demo. So let's go back to our STS, and basically what we need to do is we need to set up a connection to this microcloud. So we're creating a new server in STS. This is under the VMware Cloud Foundry plugin. We're going to call it Micro Cloud Foundry. We're going to use the credentials that we set up for Cloud Foundry, for MicroCloud. And as you can see here, and we're going to choose a MicroCloud. So there is a choice of clouds here. As you can see, this already configured. The first time you'll do it, it will ask for your configuration for your domain. I already entered my local dev. So let's see if our account is validated and click Finish. So basically what we have here is an endpoint that is connected to our MicroCloud from STS. Everything you're going to see now is running locally on my Mac. So everything is within STS, connecting to this nice little VM that I have here. So the next step is I'm going to deploy my Books app. So I'm going to call it Books. And you can see that in STS you have two choices of frameworks, Spring and Lift. We're going to use Spring for now. This is the URL that this app is actually going to live in on my local MicroCloud. I'm not going to start it. You'll see in a minute why. I'm going to click Finish. So now I have this app waiting in my MicroCloud to be deployed. Now, what is an online booking store without a place to store your books? So for that, we need a database. Now, see how simple it is to actually add a database. In this case, I'm going to call it my local DB. And I'm going to use a MySQL database service. Again, everything is running in my MicroCloud here. And I'm going to drag and drop it under Application Services. Now, what's actually happening right now is the Cloud Foundry system is provisioning the MySQL database. It's actually creating the tables for you because this is a Spring Brew app, and you have defined all the entries in the app for what you need from a database table. And it also provisions and creates the connection to that database. So when I click Start, it's going to start running everything in my MicroCloud here. So now it started and synchronized, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open it locally here in my STS environment. So I'm currently developing locally. I want to have everything done in my STS. So there is a built-in browser within STS, and I'm going to open the app here. So as you can see, I have a full-blown app running within STS, connected to a database. Everything happened within this single VM. You note there is no MySQL secret installation running here on my Mac, and no secret web servers installed. Everything is within the Cloud Foundry MicroCloud environment. And to see that we actually have a database connected to that, I'm going to create a new book, and I'm going to call it Proof, and that's me, and it was published today, and it is available in stock. Good for us. And we're going to list books, and we're going to see that book. So now, great, we have everything running on our MicroCloud, and we are ready to go live, and we've shown this to our boss, and everybody's happy, and yay, we got a great app. And now let's see what we can do with it on a public cloud environment. So do I need to go now and spend months in re-architecting my application to actually fit a public cloud environment? Well, the answer is no. All I need to do right now is basically deploy it as is to cloudfoundry.com. So from this moment, we are going to a public cloud environment, in this case, cloudfoundry.com, the operated service by VMware. And we are going to use the same user. You've seen me deploy the Foo app before. We're going to validate the account, click Finish. And you see now I have another entry here. This was my MicroCloud. This is my public cloud environment. And if I open it, you see our small little Foo app that we deployed before. Here it is. And now I'm going to take the exact same book app and drag and drop it to my Cloud Foundry, public Cloud Foundry environment. I'm still going to call it Books. I'm not going to deploy it. And I'm clicking Finish. So notice that I didn't do any code changes in my app when I moved between my local development environment to my public cloud environment. And now, again, we need a database. This time we're going to use a different kind of database. We're going to call it ProdDB, and we're going to use Postgres, vFabric Postgres database on my public cloud. And we're going to drag and drop it the same way. So we're actually using a different kind of database now. when we're moving to the public environment, and we still didn't have to change anything in our app. And not only that, we're going to deploy it with 3 instances this time, and not 1, because this is a production app, we have more users, we need more capacity. We're going to use 3 instances, and click Start here. And what's going to happen is that we're actually going to load balance between those instances and use a production database, Postgres, and not MySQL that we used in our local deployment. And this time we're actually going to go to our public environment here. We're going to click to go to Books. And as you can see now, we now have the app books.cloudfoundry.com running on a public URL. So if you guys are very fast, you already added a book. In the previous webinar, someone added a book before me. But let's do now, so my public book. And that's you. And it's available in stock, and we can add 1 more book just to illustrate that this is we have more room, more instances. It's all running on a public environment. And we can list all books, and we can create libraries, and so on. So to recap, we deployed back to STS. So we basically deployed an app locally on the microcloud, and then we scaled it to cloudfoundry.com using different kind of database, more instances, without doing any code changes. The last thing we're going to do in terms of the demo is we're going to go back to our command line, and now we are going to deploy a Node.js app using Redis service. So 2 very new frameworks. We talked about adopting your environment to future innovation. So let's say your developers are now excited and want to use Node and want to start experimenting with that, and they're going to start. Again, we'll start on our microcloud locally in our laptops, and then we're going to scale or go public with cloudfoundry.com. So the first thing is, let's actually go to the app. So this is a small customization on the open source example of NodeChat. It's a Node.js app, and the first thing we'll do is we'll run it on a microcloud. So in order to do that, we want to target ourselves back to the microcloud. So behind the scene, this is what happened when we created a server in STS. It did the equivalent of a VMC target. And now we're going to go to my local dev.cloudfoundry.me. And we are going to do VMC push. Sorry. So this time we're going to deploy from the current directory. We're going to call it my chat or CF chat. This is going to be the URL. So for those of you who will try to participate in this local chat, it's still local. It's running on my microcloud. It will be public in a minute, don't worry. You remember that before that it detected a Ruby application. Now this is a Node.js application, and that's correct. We're going to use the default memory. And yes, we're going to bind services. Last time we said no, and then we've shown services on STS. Now we're going to show services on VMC, on the command line. We don't want to use any existing service. We want to do a new one, and this new one is a Redis. So I'm selecting 3. Redis key value store. Name is fine. It's creating the service, uploading the application, staging it, and starting it. And now if we go back to our browser and open another tab and do cf_chat, my local dev.cloudfoundry.me, and now we have and that's only Dekel. This is a nice little chat app, and that's only me. It will be public in a minute. So let's say now that I'm happy with my app and I'm going back to VMC. And now the next logical step is let's move it to a public cloud environment and deploy it. So in order to do that, and publish it. In order to do that, what we first need to do is our favorite target command. So we're doing vmc target, and this time we're going back to the cloudfoundry.com. So you see how am I juggling like between clouds? That's the promise of a multi-cloud. You don't really care where your app, you don't choose your cloud when you choose your path. You develop locally, in this case microcloud, or any private cloud deployment, or another public cloud running Cloud Foundry. It doesn't matter. It's VMC everywhere. You target to multi-cloud, and when you choose your path, you don't choose your cloud. api.cloudfoundry.com. So now we're targeting. Let's just see that we are good. And we can do, if you're not sure, you can always do VMC info and look where you are. So this time our target is api.cloudfoundry.com. And we're already using one service, which is the database service Postgres for the books. And we have two apps, which is Foo and our bookstore. And we are utilizing 1.6 gigs out of our 2 gig quota. And let's do push. So the same thing now on cloudfoundry.com. Sorry. And we'll do deploy from the current directory. Yes, we're going to call it cfchat again. Now this time this URL is going to be on cloudfoundry.com. So you'll be, if you're fast, you'll be able to join the chat and write something. This is a Node.js application, that's correct. Default memory reservation. You can always go through that deployment without all the questions with one of the tags. So go to vmc-help and you can see how you can avoid that. Yes, we'd like to bind a service. And no, we don't want to use the existing one. You see this time you got more services available, and we'll do Redis. Number 5, name is fine. Creating the service, binding, uploading the application, staging, starting, and in a minute you will have a live chat running. So if we'll go back to our browser here and we'll call cfchat cloudfoundry.com, and I'm going to join it. So we got a few fasters, so welcome. So now it's all public, and who is I'm first? Ken. Okay, Ken, you get. I need to think of a prize. So I'm public. So now it's all public in cloudfoundry.com. So again, what we've seen is we've went to a Node.js app this time using a Redis service. So a different kind of framework, different type of services. We first deployed it on our local microcloud and then publish it on cloudfoundry.com without doing any changes. So at this point, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. And we've seen the Ruby app, the Spring app, and the Node.js app. What I really like you to take away from is that this was deployed on a multi-cloud environment, locally or in public cloud, and the same thing basically you can do with any technology any provider that basically runs the Cloud Foundry PaaS stack.